Welcome to r/EntitledPeople, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them, and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel, and for so many likes. And today we have two great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story, Confronting Entitlement in the Popcorn Factory, a tale of workplace strife and surprising connections. The second story, I got a new job and my old bosses are failing, all because they hired the wrong person, but when they realized it was too late. The first story is several months of being targeted by an entitled coworker. Some short backstory. I work at a small popcorn factory. I've been working there since I was 18 2 years ago. My boyfriend started working there almost a year after me and is still there with me. We're both the best employees we can be, doing our jobs, working overtime when asked, helping anyone when asked, learning any department we're needed in, etc. The first run-in we had with entitled coworker was when my boyfriend worked chocolating. The one day the team lead for that section was gone, she tried changing how they did things to what she thought was best, and he politely said they should stick to what's normal. Not a big deal, but it was the beginning of everything. A while later, I'm not sure how long, she's moved to packaging. I don't remember if she was on mornings first or if she was always night shift, but it doesn't matter. A bunch of time passes. My friend steps down from night shift team lead and leaves. Entitled coworker takes his spot, since there was literally no other option that had been there for more than a month. At some point we get short on staff and there are huge differences in how the shifts operate, so they decide to make it all one morning shift until they get more people. My friend warns me about entitled coworker. I take note of it, but I still try to treat her like I've never met her before. The first few days are nice. Then she gets on to my boyfriend about when we take lunch. We try to go at 11 so we can go to the sub shop right next to us. She gets on to him about how it's not fair that we go when we want to because some people have bills and can't afford a $15 sub. She doesn't even want the time changed. She just wants to complain. And then after lunch, she targets me. I'm just standing at the end of the line doing my job. She comes up to me and asks why I can't do night shift. I think nothing of it and I just tell her I can't drive, and I'm not comfortable walking alone at night. She basically tells me that she has nighttime anxiety, so it isn't fair to her that I don't work nights. All this happened a while ago, so I don't remember quotes. I tell her again that I walk, and I go past a sketchy motel, along with the fact that the bears come out in my neighborhood at 10, when I would be getting off work. Yet again, it isn't fair to her and she has that bear too. She doesn't live right next to me. At some point I got tired of repeating myself, so I just told her I have a friend that is at risk of committing suicide, which was true, and I needed to be there for him, since I was one of his only support people. Still not a good answer. Eventually she tells me to just work night shift and I say F no, and end the conversation. Remember this. We report her to the manager and they make her apologize. She literally just said, "I'm sorry for speaking my mind." We accepted her half-a apology and stuff was normal for a little while. Some random amount of time passes and we reach incident 2. We clean out the hoppers we used to bag the corn and begin dumping corn in, leaving hers empty since she had wandered off to talk to someone. When she comes back, she asks her boyfriend to fill her hopper since she has a bad back. He does, and my boyfriend notices the hopper looks wet. He goes to check and sure enough it is. He's nice about it and just says we have to run the corn out and toss it out, but it's not a big deal. She accepts at first, then grabs a rag from the bars of the hopper and argues that she used this and it's dry, and that it will be dry by the time the corn is out. My boyfriend is getting a little frustrated and tells her it wasn't dry. I wasn't there to catch the full conversation, but I'm assuming she kept insisting it was. And eventually, after she got audibly mad, he used the same tone she did. "Don't talk to me like that," he answers. "Don't talk to me like that." Takes a breath and is about to apologize for losing his cool when she storms off and reports him to the manager. Basic and calm talk with the manager. He gets it. He has to deal with her too. He just asks that he apologizes. When I see her next, I pull her aside. He apologizes and I politely tell her that we both don't have the best tone control, and if we ever sound mad, to please just nicely tell us and we will apologize and correct it. She goes off about how we're disrespectful, how she's a supervisor and deserves respect, how she's gotten over issues, so why haven't we gotten over ours? She's 7 years older than us, and tells us to leave it at home. She didn't accept our apology, and I was so mad I was shaking. For the next several weeks, I had to battle on and off shutdowns as every time I thought about her, I would get so anxious I could barely move, and couldn't talk. At some point, we made plans with the manager to have a meeting with her to discuss all of this, since we felt it had gone too far. The intention was for both sides to talk to our issues, as I figured it was just a case of us not understanding each other. The actual outcome was basically us saying, we know both sides have probably done something wrong here, and her going, yeah, you're wrong and disrespectful. Not exact words, of course, just the gist. When I asked about why she feels disrespected, the only thing she said was, you cussed at me, and then went to a different topic. Last week, she got mad at us again. We use a bleach solution to clean a tool we use. We were told it is a specific dilution, 4 quarts water, 1 tablespoon bleach. We've been following that perfectly. She told us we can just use a smaller container. I tried to just politely tell her that we would have to adjust the bleach measurement too. Just use a smaller container. I tell her the same thing again and she cuts me off. I just use the cap. It's half a tablespoon. She's only using 1 quart of water, and no, I'm pretty sure that cap is a full tablespoon. I tell her again, she cuts me off. Again, she cuts me off. My boyfriend tries to tell her, she cuts him off. We walk away. A few minutes later, I try to politely tell her that we can do her idea. We just have to adjust the bleach measurement. She finally listens and tells me our food safety person said it doesn't matter that much. Why didn't she say that earlier? She tells my boyfriend we're wasting so much bleach, and he tells her a little angrily that it isn't that much. She's getting mad again, so I tell her he wasn't told what I just was, and that's why he's still mad. She takes her chance and goes off on us, yelling about how we never respect her, and why are you always so mean to me, and I have no staff and have 2 jobs and stay late all the time, but you won't stay late to help me? She never asked us to. My boyfriend chimes in that she never even lets us finish our sentences. She keeps yelling, and at this point, our morning shift team lead yells at us to all shut up. The day after this, she erased her name on the whiteboard and instead, next to her phone number, wrote Name Supervisor. A few months later, I finally reported it to the CEO. She was reprimanded. Apparently, it scared her. Now she doesn't bother us. And just as a fun side note, my nosy roommate looked her up on Facebook. Her precious sister was one of my high school bullies, and also just generally hated by everyone at that school for being a stuck-up a-hole. The second story is 7 years of hard work, and still didn't mean anything to my employer. I worked at a resort for 7 years. Coming out of the military, I expected to find a career in criminal justice. This led to landing a seasonal overnight security position at the resort. I quickly fell in love with industry and had some of the best coworkers I've ever had the pleasure of working with. I went from my seasonal position to managing the day-to-day operations within 4 years. Having worked many departments in those 4 years and having a strong IT background led me to being the go-to person when something is wrong with a guest, system, or just if any problem were to arise. I even got Employee of the Year, Supervisor of the Year, and one time was Manager of the Quarter, all in my first 4 years. During COVID shutdowns and any natural disaster, I was one of a handful to stay at the resort while others were sent home for safety. I worked every single holiday because I preferred my staff to enjoy their family and kids, as I had no kids, and my wife and I are flexible with our time off and celebrate holidays on whatever day we have off. I truly loved going to work every single day, even when I would work 15-hour days for weeks on end due to being short-staffed. Things started changing on my 5th year of working. The property was old and needed a lot of TLC. Our owners decided to sell the property, and it was bought out by a hotel group and was set to go through an extensive $20+ million renovation. It took 2 years before the hotel was shut down for renovation, but those 2 years were hell. Money was being saved for renovations, so we had to deal with water leaks, mold, rust, and many other issues guests were not happy about. I unfortunately dealt with all complaints and took a beating from guests for many months, to the point where quitting was on my mind every day. My boss did all she could to help. She was the best boss I've ever worked with and taught me a lot. She eventually was able to get owners to recognize my efforts, and I was offered a bonus for all the pain and struggle I shouldn't have had to deal with. It really helped me feel better and push through being recognized for my work. That is until I found out it wasn't just for me. Since the hotel was struggling and staff kept quitting, owners decided to give bonuses to everyone. It was a great move to improve morale, but for me, I dealt with the worst of it all, and I thought I was being recognized for it. But that just wasn't the case. After that, I started to resent ownership, but still, my coworkers and staff were the best, and I couldn't leave them hanging, so I pushed through for them. My last year, I was offered a position as a director, a position we had been struggling to get filled. What I wasn't told was that they had a temporary director hired as well, who was to assist me until her contract expired. Not a problem for me, she was way more experienced, and I thought I could learn a lot, but she was not a good person. She would tell my staff to ignore my direction and do as she asked, would ignore my requests for training she was supposed to give, And worst of all, she would lie to the GM and owners about my progress as a director. After 2 months, I was called in after a day with big issues that she blamed all on me, and was told I was being demoted back to my old position. I was heartbroken. I went from being the go-to person for everything to feeling like no one respected me. It felt horrible walking into work feeling like everybody thinks you're a failure, and all because of the lies from one person. I believe she was trying to get me pushed out so that she can take over as a permanent director. My boss fought tooth and nail for me because that person lied about a lot of things. We had to deal with her for another 3 months. It was not fun. I'm not sure how it came to be, but shortly after her contract was up, I got called into the GM's office and he and the corporate VP for the area were wanting to talk to me. They explained that they found out a lot of the temporary director's statements were lies, and that I was incorrectly evaluated. They apologized and offered me the director's salary again, but at the current position I was in. It was too late to change owners' mind about me, and that was the best they could do. A few months later, the resort closed for renovation, and owners hand-picked people to go to work at other hotels they owned, so that they didn't lose those employees. I wasn't in a position to spend 6+ months away from home, so I declined but was told it would greatly affect my chances of returning when the hotel opened back up. 7 years of blood, sweat, and tears, and I wasn't guaranteed a spot to come back. I tried going to work for one of the owner's hotels, but it was a strain on my home life, so I came back home and I took my chances of finding a new job. For months, I applied anywhere I could that was in line with my experience. I sent over 200+ applications and nothing. Finally, the hotel was getting ready to hire, so I applied for management positions and went to interview. Despite all the experience I had over other candidates, they decided to offer me a management role overseeing valet. At the time, it was better than nothing, as unemployment wasn't enough for the bills, so I accepted. A week later, I get a call from HR that it was decided to outsource valet and rescinded the offer. They knew they would be outsourcing and still offered me a role that didn't exist. I couldn't believe it, but the great part about that call was that I was able to tell her that I had actually meant to call and pull my application because the day before, one of the companies I interviewed for called and formally offered me a position as a hotel software analyst. This new job is amazing. The hours are great, my coworkers are fun, and best of all, it's a 100% remote position. I feel so lucky and blessed to have this opportunity, and in the few months I've worked for them, I've received a lot of appreciation for what I do. To top it all off, shortly after taking in my new job, the GM of my old job asked me if I could work for them as a contractor to fix their IT-related issues, to which I bill at my own rate. It's easy money now as I set most of everything up at the hotel and no one, even their corporate IT, is able to figure out their issues, hence why they called me. The hotel now is in bad shape even after renovation. Still having major problems with the building, staff doesn't last, owners are too demanding, and even the GM called it quits. Operations is a nightmare because nobody knows how to properly use the systems. They've lost and are losing thousands and thousands in revenue without proper setup. They underestimated how much my old boss and I really kept things running. I've even been asked if I would consider going back, but not gonna happen. That's what happens when employers don't appreciate their employees. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Have a good day.